am Lequita Brooks, your social impact speaker and strategist. Welcome to Social Impact Sundays at 6, where we have massive social impact that leads to massive income. And today we have Chasity Fowlkes. She is the relationship and sex therapist. She has tons of experience. She recently had another best-selling book. She has a therapy practice. Like, she's doing all the things. Welcome, Chasity.
Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. So tell us, what made you become a relationship and sex therapist? Because, relationships is okay to talk about, but sex therapy can be a little, taboo.
You
So
know, I've always been really, really open sexually. People always used to come and talk to me about it. I've been doing in-home parties for over 2 decades. So it just kind of came naturally to me. But actually, the reason why I went the professional route of becoming a certified sex therapist was to be able to have more experience and skills in helping the LGBTQ plus community. So that's the actual reason why I became a sex therapist. Yeah.
I love that it wasn't just, okay, I just want to be a sex therapist. There was a why behind it. And tell us more about how you work with that population in sex therapy.
Oh man. Well, I work with all populations, all relationships, all love styles. I kind of consider myself, I guess, the unicorn of sex therapy because most people only, focus on, women's sexual issues or sexual dysfunction or only couples or only this. And I navigate the full spectrum of sex, sexuality, and gender. So any and everything within that realm is completely okay with me, partly because I wanted people to have a one-stop shop of where they could come and receive services. So many times people are looking for help in so many different arenas, and then they have to have 2 and 3 different therapists or coaches to kind of help them with that. So I like being that hub of someone can come and kind of get help in all those arenas. So every specialization, every training, everything that I've ever gotten has been intentional from the beginning to better serve the communities that I specialize in. So if it's not going to benefit the communities that I specialize in, I don't take it. I don't partake.
Where do you operate basically from a space of impact? It's like, listen, I'm doing this intentionally, strategically, because I desire to have an impact in the communities that's important to me. So when you first went to get your mental health counseling degree, was this a trajectory or was it something different?
That is a really good question. So honestly, I never intended to be a therapist. I wanted to be a lawyer since 5th grade. I might be telling my age, but we watched the O.J. Simpson trial in 5th grade. I fell in love with law. I was going to be a lawyer. Fast forward to high school, I took a psychology course, I took a sociology course, and that's when I was like, bam, I'm a major in psychology, minor in sociology, and I'm going to school to be a lawyer. And at that time, I wanted to be a criminal lawyer. But my now ex-husband, at that time boyfriend, tragedy struck in his family's life, and there was loss of life as a result. And I watched how they navigated that. I watched how it impacted them and how I never saw them to be the same. And I felt like I would have a greater impact as a therapist or a clinical psychologist than I would as a lawyer. And so I chose that route then. Fast forward now, and 20 some odd years later, and now my hands are kind of being tied for the populations that I prefer to serve in the capacities for which I can serve and have an impact in our communities. And so now I'm like, it's time for me to go and pursue my degree in law so I can continue to help people, continue to have impact, but be able to show up authentically as myself and to help the people that I need to help without fear of, getting a felony charge or being locked up or any of that crazy stuff that's going on in my primary state that I practice in.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, like, you had this pretty much 20 years in the mental health counseling field, relationship, sex therapy. And after 20 years, you've made the decision to, like, you know what? I want to have a greater impact in a different way, still leveraging those
Yeah.
same amazing skills you've had over the years as a therapist. But now you're planning to go to law school. So for those of you who are watching and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't pivot, I can't do something else. Listen, Chasity just told you she has been in the profession 20, not 10. That is 2 decades.
Yeah,
What
22 come next month. 22 years in this helping field. Yeah. I'm still going to be in the helping field. I'm just going to be helping in a different capacity. That's how I like to look at it. I'll be able to have as the topic of the show is impact, I'll be able to have a greater impact and a wider range of the people that I can help. Our hands as therapists in the current political state of the United States is definitely being tied. I mean, I'm being limited. Services that I've been offering for 5 to 7 years, I now can't do in my state. And that greatly impacts my clientele. It greatly impacts their ability to function, how they show up in the world, and ultimately their mental health and possibly their lives, like them being alive type of thing. So it's definitely time to pivot. I'm glad that you said that, because there's so many ways for therapists and social workers and marriage and family therapists to be able to help, have an impact, and still make money. My motto: your passion and your purpose and your profits. And so I'm really big on that. Just because we're helpers don't mean we got to be broke. So there's so many ways that we can help. There's so much that we can do. And majority of the skills and tools and gifts that we have are within. It's just all of the other outside noise, or as people like to say, imposter syndrome, and those types of things that keep us, ultimately fear, and what I think is like trauma responses to things that we were exposed to growing up, our money mindset and stuff. But that's not what we hear, so I ain't gonna go there.
Hey, we talk about all here on Social Impact Sundays. So we want to talk about some money mindset trauma. We're also going to talk about your best-selling book. We're going to talk about your private practice and the states that you serve along with your practice and other members.
Awesome.
We're talking about your travel business, because you are the epitome of an entrepreneur who's leveraged being in the helping profession. And like you said, mental health counseling, and now transitioning into law. And not even transitioning, you're adding something else to your toolbox to make an impact in a different way. So let's start with anything you want to share about money trauma, mindset, on why it holds us back in the helping profession. It's time for a change.
I've been around for a while, right? And I've mentored some of the people who are your most profound mentors now in the field. At some point were my mentees, and so it's great to see them now being leaders and having their impact. And so my thing is, I want to be able to help as many people as possible to take over these activist roles, or these mentorship roles, or these leadership roles, right? We may not want to be an influencer in our field. We may not want to be a leader in our field, but sometimes we're pushed into those roles, or we volunteered for something and it takes on a life of its own. And so I must say that, I have to give credit to where credit is due. And I started a lot of my, mentorship, my service work and things like that in the field by being one of the founding board members of Black Therapists Rock. And so I have to start there, because that's where my impact started. That's where I met, at that time, the president of Black Therapists Rock, who is my mentor, and the co-founder of the Clinicians of Color, which is Lisa Savage Phillips. Some of my most prominent connections in my life I met through that organization and the connections there. Not to mention my husband. That's how I actually met my husband originally, as my accountability partner, through the BTR book project, which was my first book. I'm on book 5, going on 6 now. So it's been a little while, but the people that I've met and the connections that I've had in that offline, it's great to be online and connected, but that sense of really knowing somebody and feeling their energy and getting to know other parts of them, not just this professional, mask that people wear, but that they can have fun, or that they are really funny, or that, there's these other quirky sides of folks. And so I really love connecting with people. I love to pour into people, especially those who are pouring into themselves. The game has definitely changed. As someone that's been around for a while, It's almost as though there's a sense of entitlement when you come into this field. Like you don't have to pay your dues. And those who have, like we're obligated to give and pour into you. And if we don't, then it's capitalism this, or we're, part of the, this agenda or that agenda. And it's just kind of like it's much different than when I was around. I remember traveling all over the world doing stuff for BTR, which is a nonprofit. I wasn't getting paid. My payment was the connections, my payment was the energy, my payment was creating a space for us to get together. It was Duran allowing me and the rest of us to serve in that capacity to help build up that organization. And you just don't really see that anymore. You don't see us, leveraging our expertise and our time and our efforts to help each other like get ahead. You do, but it's like the yous and me's of the world that's kind of doing that thing. A lot of people feel like they're too big or they're too this to do things for us small folks, which I get it. Get your money, get paid. I'm all here for it. But I do feel a sense of obligation to give back, but I give back to those who invest in themselves. That's kind of how I do that nowadays.
You said so much, Chasity. Like, oh my goodness. One, don't forget where you come from. Like, pay homage to who you need to pay homage for. And yes, it's a time and a season to give of your time and your talents because there are other benefits. And like you said, you reap so many benefits. It might not have been a financial gain, but those networks are just priceless, pretty much. Like, your network, as some would say, is your net worth. So, and it makes a huge difference in being in the right communities. And sometimes you do have to invest and pay money.
I continue to be amazed with the various business ventures or projects that I come up with is that I'm able to reach out to folks, and I'm very rarely ever told no. And to me, that speaks volumes that people see the value in the things that I'm creating in the spaces that I'm trying to make for us. Partly because I'm creating a table, but I'm creating seats at the table. I want us all to be paid. I want us all to eat. I've learned some hard lessons in business on that, though. You can't eat with everybody, right? Everybody's not ready for that table or the work and the dedication that it takes to. Everybody's work ethic may not be like yours, and people don't treat your baby the way you're gonna treat your baby. So I learned that the hard way. It's kind of like Dr. Brene Brown says, there's no vulnerability without boundaries. And so now my boundaries are pretty clear when it comes to helping people. I want to help and I want to pour in, but if I'm taking time away from my businesses or my family, it has to make sense. So if you do a small deposit into whatever this situation is that I got going on, I promise you the value is definitely there. I will be pouring into you for years to come because you invested in yourself and you showed me that you at least believe what I had to offer was worth that small investment. So yeah.
Paying it forward. And also, I guess in a way, it's your way of appreciating what others are doing in your life, and that's your way of giving back to them. So tell us more about this newest book and what it's about. Who is it for? How are you helping people?
So one of my colleagues whom I truly adore was asking sexuality professionals to be a part of this book project. I remember saying, oh, I should do this. And I remember my business coach coming up under my comment, like, you ain't got time to be writing no more books. So it was really funny because I did end up pulling it off. But Dr. James Wadley is the editor of this book. For those who don't know, Dr. James Wadley is a big deal. He actually is one of the advisory board meeting members for my sexuality school, which is the only school in the world that's geared towards the BIPOC community. But anyways, it is his book, and the book is called The Professional's Guide to Sexuality Consultation. And so my chapter is on allyship, actually. And so in my chapter, I kind of talk about how allyship went from a passion of mine. I've been passionate about the LGBTQ plus community since the beginning. I decided I was going to be a sex therapist in my master's program because I watched the Barbara Walters 2020 special on transgender children. And that did it for me. I knew right then and there that was a population that I needed to work with, because not everybody was going to be able to do that. But anyways, and so much of what I felt drawn to, I really feel like, God, the universe, whatever it is that you believe in, was preparing me. My husband is trans, my daughter is pan, my bonus son is gay. And it's like, I had no idea any of that was going to happen, or any of that would be part of my life. But what I will say is, over the last 2 to 3 years, even that has been a transition for me, to go from just the position of an ally to now this being a pivotal piece of my personal life, and the impact and the things that also impact the community and my clients also impact me personally. And that's a different arena for sure. But in my chapter, I kind of just talk about how I went from, falling in love with doing that work to being a person of influence now in the sexuality field. I like to say, and I borrow this from Dr. Lex James, I'm just a reflection of those around me. I remember me telling her how great she is, and I remember her telling me she's just a reflection of me and those around her. And so I use that often, because I have some really, really solid folks in my circle, or one hand length away from my circle. And I think people really don't understand the value of building real relationships, because there's something about building a real, authentic relationship and connection with folks. Because when you do ask, they answer. When you do call, they pick up the phone, because they know that whatever it is that you're doing is going to be for a good cause. It's going to create some impact, and you also are going to have their best interests, at hand.
Getting back to just real relationships. Yeah. And you're like emphasizing the real piece. Online is cool, but it's something about that energetic force of being in person with somebody and actually feeling their aura and their genuineness, or not so genuineness, but whatever it is. Yeah. You also now incorporate your therapy and some travel stuff. So tell us more about this travel agency.
Yes. So yeah, and I remember you came with us to Vegas last year, and we had a blast. So I shout out to you for taking advantage of some fellowship. So Black Therapist Travel is the name of my travel agency, and Black Therapist Travel was created out of the sheer need of vacation. Right? I need vacation. It's the only true time that I unplug. I don't have a lot of friends or family that do some serious traveling the way that I wanted to. And so I decided to create a community for Black therapists and entrepreneurs to basically travel the world. Our 3 cornerstones are food, fun, and fellowship. And that literally is what we do. There are some things that will never get back to the general public that happen on a BTT trip. There's lots of memories, lots of connections. We talk about business a little bit, but we there to have fun. We're there to unplug. And it's just really good to see therapists be able to let their hair down and have fun. I always say, nobody parties like therapists. And I know that back from Black Therapist Rock days and us having conferences and stuff. I promise you, we work hard and we play hard. And so Black Therapist Travel is really just a hub for therapists and entrepreneurs to see the world. You may not have that capacity to do that travel with your friends, or you're never making it out of the group chat, or your family is always flaking. Well, don't worry about it. You can come and hop on one of our trips. You have the ability to vote for where you want to go, because it is definitely a democracy. I plan the trips that you guys say that you want, and we go. Whether there's 14, 20, or 4, we gonna take the trip. I always say, you either join us or watch us, but either way, we going.
So Black Therapist Rock is when you realize, like, oh my goodness, like therapists do party. They really do get down with the get down.
Oh yeah. We had some good times. We got some good memories. We had some adventures for sure. Yes.
Yes, and earlier you were talking about your school for sexual wellness. So tell us more about that.
Yes, so the National Institute for Sexual Health and Wellness is a sexuality training institute for sexuality professionals, so sex therapists, sex counselors, sex educators, and it is geared towards the BIPOC community. So it's all decolonized and it's about Black and Brown voices and experiences. And so it's the first of its kind in the world. And we've been ASEC approved provider since 2019. We were on track to launch and everything was good for 2020. And then COVID hit, and then I lost 3 family members. And so we've been doing some catch up, doing some trainings and stuff like that. But we definitely have some things coming in the spring. That's all I can say. Some things are coming in the spring, but we are set up to help people to reach whatever their sexuality training goals are. So whether that is a full-blown certification or to have the courses to collect the full-blown certification, or if it's just to make sure that you become more well-versed in a certain area, a certain arena, we got you covered. And so I reached out to all the heavy hitters that I knew, all the people that I've seen have great impact in the sexuality profession. And they are the course content creators, they're the instructors, there'll be some of the guest lecturers, that type of thing. So when I was going in my program, I didn't really see people that looked like me. I didn't learn how to do this work with people that looked like me. And the fact that I paid over $7,000 of my hard-earned money really did not sit well with me. And so that is why the National Institute for Sexual Health and Wellness was birthed. I remember asking Dr. Wadley, why is there no school or institute that's geared towards us? And he's like, I don't know, sis, but if you make it, I'll help. And so I took him up on that. That was 2016 when I shared that thought with him. 2018, I started to plan. In 2019, we became a bona fide entity, and we've been providing services ever since then. There's been, some minor hiccups, but it has to be right. I don't want to just throw anything out there, but what I will say is we got some stuff coming in the spring. So for those who have patiently been waiting, I always say, make sure your coins is right? Make sure your coins are ready, because I got to pay these people. These are big time speakers. These are people who write books and grace stages, and so I want to make sure that they're paid, because I want to make sure that you guys have access to the best, for sure.
This is exciting. Oh my.
Yeah.
So what advice or life lessons would you share with our audience?
I like to say authenticity is the new sexy. That's been my saying, like ever since my first anthology that I dropped. I used to sign my books and say that. But there's a lot of truth to that. What I will say is I always felt like I was a very authentic person, but when I went through the certification program for Dr. Brene Brown's work, that's when I realized that there's another level to authenticity, and that level of vulnerability and transparency is a daily work. And so what I would say is be true to you, be true to what warms your heart, be true to where your gifts lie. We have to know our strengths and we have to know our weaknesses. And I think sometimes we're trying to be the people that we see, doing the things, they got 10,000 followers. I want to do that. Oh, they got this amazing podcast. I want to do that. Oh, they're writing books. I want to do that. Oh, they're taking all these certifications. I want to do that. Oh, they're in this coaching program. I want to do that. And I think you really have to take a step back and realize what it is that you want to do, right? What populations bring you joy and bring you happiness. I'm really big on only doing things that are in alignment with how I want to show up in the world. Money is not the most important factor. I do understand that there's some privilege in me saying that. I get that. I get that there's privilege in saying I don't code switch and that I am who I am every time you see me, whether it's a BTT trip or I'm gracing someone's stage. But that's just how I've learned to live my life, to not be concerned with how others see me, but to make sure that I'm showing up in a way that is real, true, and raw to me. And I believe when that happens, you go from chasing the bag to the bag chasing you. Like, it's something that's really powerful and magical that happens when you walk in your true gifts and you're doing so authentically. I think it's just the blessings just flow versus the struggle and the stifling of trying to be or trying to do something that just really doesn't, work for you. So that would be my advice. Be you, do you, and do the work. Right. Doing the work. One of my good colleagues, Dr. LaDonna Butler, I remember on our BTT, our Black Therapist Rock cruise when we launched our book. And she was one of our speakers, and she said, you got to do the work to do the work. And that is the theme of our therapist retreat in Thailand this December, is to do the work. And so many of us are out here doing work with clients, but we're not doing our own work. And in order for us to show up authentically and as healthy as we need to be, we have to do the work. So do the work. It's necessary to do the work and stay plugged in, for sure.
Be authentic, be in alignment, and actually do the work as you're working with others.
Absolutely.
So what is the best way for people to reach you, Chasity?
I guess I'd say Facebook is my social media platform of choice. It's where I spend my most time. So you can find me on social media, Chasity Fowlkes. You can also possibly find me online. My old name might pop up, but Chasity Chandler, you can pretty much find me anywhere there. Majority of my social media handles are Chas for Change, CHAS for Change. But yeah, just hit me up or get in touch with Lequita. She knows how to get in touch with me, and I'm more than happy to connect and to collab and to just fellowship. I'm all about a good meal and some good laughs, for sure.
Definitely. And thank you so much, Chasity, for joining us today on Social Impact Sundays at 6.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Make sure you go to socialimpactsundays.com to check out more of the episodes. I am Lequita Brooks, your social impact speaker and strategist. Have an amazing day.